Alrighty, I want to welcome everyone out to tonight's tax lien and deed training. Tonight we're going to be talking about how to get started with auctions. So we're going to talk about the different types of auctions. We're really going to focus on what happens at the auction, particularly attending an auction. So, going to an auction in person. So that could be going down to your county courthouse and attending a sale. That may be going to a tax sale in another area. And there's certain parts in the country, like Texas, for example, that doesn't have online auctions. So if you want to participate in the Texas sale, you've either got to attend the auction yourself, or you're going to have somebody attend the auction for you. So we're going to go through and talk about what is involved with the auction. A lot of these same auction topics are going to also apply to purchasing tax liens over the counter. So as we go throughout the webinar, feel free to ask any questions that you have down in the chat section. You can also ask in the Q&A section. Either one of those, I'll be able to answer some of them. I will try to answer as many of them as we can this evening. We may not be able to get to all of them, so if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them in the forum section of the website. That's going to be a good place where we can talk about tax lien and deed investing and really kind of have a conversation about different tax lien and deed topics. So I think it's going to be a benefit for everyone. Now, let's go ahead and get in tonight's tax lien training. As far as what we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk about how does the auction work. We're going to talk about what do I need to attend the auction. We're also going to talk about what bidding systems can be used at the auction. So what are the different ways you can purchase tax liens, tax deeds, redemption deeds at attending the sale. And also, what should you know before attending an auction? So we'll get through this. Also, if we have extra time this evening, we'll go ahead and start looking at some auctions. We'll go look at upcoming properties, tax liens, tax deeds. So we'll try to get through this as quickly as we can this evening so that we have as much time as possible at looking at upcoming auctions. I know that that's something that I always get a lot of requests from the students, is they like going through and looking at upcoming auctions just to see what's taking place, kind of going through the process of doing a quick search on the property. So we're going to do a quick search on these properties. We'll check out what the value is, or at least the close to market value, the estimate value. So this won't be right on, but at least give us an idea of its value. We can also look at the properties using some of the tools like Google Maps. This is a great tool for real estate investors to be able to look at properties in areas. So we'll go through and we'll look at the county records and review the property records on each property. And so let's get through this information as quickly as possible, and go ahead and ask any of your questions, and I'll try to address as many as I can today. Now, as far as a tax lien certificate, a tax lien is a claim against an asset filed by a government taxing authority against a delinquent taxpayer. So tax lien certificates, particularly property tax lien certificates, are against real property. So we're talking about real estate here. Now, there's really three types of tax sales. There's going to be tax lien sales, there's tax deed sales, and there's redemption deed sales. Now, I go through each one of these in a little bit better detail in last week's webinar. So if you didn't watch last week's webinar, we have it available in the replay, so you can go into Secrets of Tax Lien Investing and review the webinar there. And we'll go through and spend a little bit of time and talk about each one of these different topics. Because we have so much information to go over and I want to look at some upcoming auctions, we're not going to go through that tonight. So if we haven't gone through the information, you can go back and watch many of the past webinars, at least the last two, and we'll go through each one of these in a little bit of detail. But essentially, there's three different types of tax sales. There's tax lien sales, there's tax deed sales, and then of course redemption deeds. With tax deeds, we're acquiring property. Very similar with redemption deeds. We're going to have some property ownership rights, but they do have a redemption period like a tax lien certificate. And then, of course, with tax liens, we're earning an interest rate return with the possibility of acquiring the property through foreclosure. So I wanted to show you guys some recent deals that have been done. These are some deals that I worked on. A couple properties in Florida. You can see that one was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. The other was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. They sold at auction one sold for $10,000, one sold for just over $20,000. And with each one of these properties, the opening bid started at about half of that. So started at 5, was worth 10, started at 10, 12, and then went for 20. With these properties, there are going to be different strategies. One of them, will be used most likely as a rental, and renting out that property. Uh, you know, Essentially this property could pay for itself within a year or so, bringing in anywhere about $900 a month is kind of what the 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes or renting for within that area. The other property will turn around and be sold. There was repairs that needed to be done, going through the quiet title process so that we have a warranty deed on the property. So with this property, there's going to be about $30,000 worth of profit, a little bit more than that. So you're not looking at making huge amounts of profit on single-family homes. As you get up and up in value, there will be more opportunity for profit, but you're still looking at it really one of the cheapest ways to acquire real estate. Even with the repairs needed, that's what you're looking at when you're looking at the value of the property. That's going to help determine how high or how low you need to be to still make a good profit, even if there's going to be unneeded repairs. If you're doing a complete rehab or semi-rehab on a property and then selling it through a real estate agent with a warranty deed, or if you're selling a property quickly to another investor that'll go through and do that. So you could have easily sold one of these properties to another investor, if we paid $10,000, turn around and sell it for $25,000 or something like that to another investor that'll go through and do the work, and then go through the quiet title process and sell it for top dollar. So it's really going to depend on what your motivation is, but these are typical of some of the real estate deals. Now, sometimes you may need to bid on several properties before you are able to finally win a property at your price. Some of the online auctions in Florida have a little bit more competition than I've seen in the past, and so because of that, you might need to lose a few properties before you win a property. I think with these properties, I probably bidded on 7 or 8 different properties before we won a property, and it may have even been more than that. I need to actually go back and look. So that's something to think about. Now, when you're attending an auction in person, you have a better chance many times of picking up a better deal, because you're just going to be competing with the local competition there, maybe a couple of outside investors, but there's not going to be the outside investors like there is going to be on online auctions. Now, I think online auctions are still a great way to acquire property, but you're going to need to be more selective with which properties you choose at what different price points. And if the competition gets too much, you need to be willing to walk away. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more tonight, about emotional bidding. Now, here is 2 other properties that I helped a student purchase recently. Now, with these 2 different properties, kind of a funny story about it. This property here on the left was a property that we actually didn't research. She ended up bidding on this property by mistake, thinking she was bidding on another property that we had looked at. And so luckily, it's not a bad property. Did a little bit more research on it. It's going to be a nice property to sell. But these were picked up at the Michigan resale auctions. So with the resales, properties are starting at about $100. So with this type of property, you're not looking to make huge amounts, a huge lump sum, as far as making $50,000 or $60,000 on a deal, but you can easily make anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 on these different type of deals. And even if you can, even if you pick up a property for $250 and you're able to sell it for $3,000 or $4,000, you've still got a huge return on your investment. Now, with the property on the right, this was the property she picked up by mistake, for $700. Now, the market value of this property is about 10 to 15. That's on the conservative side. There's property on the same street that's currently listed at 19, and that was the cheapest property in the area. And what this is essentially kind of a cabin lot. It's right above across the the road is a a fishing stream that's known for its fishing. There's hunting within this area, turkey hunting and different things like that. And so with this type of property, you're really selling kind of a recreational retreat. Now people can live here year round, so if somebody did want to live there, they could. But there is also a lot of hunters and fishers and people who kind of create a summer home or a cabin up in these different types of areas. So picking it up for $700, even if she only sold it for $5,000, she would still make a great return. And I think that she has a good chance of selling it anywhere between 8 to 10. We'll have to see. It could even be higher. Now the property on the right she bought for $250, has a market value of about 8 to 10. Now on this property, it has a shed on the property. It's hard to see. It's at the back, very, very back of the lot. This is a long, large lot, but there is a shed on the property. So with this particular property, in the area, the home right here to the left of it, the home to the right of it, are worth anywhere between $200,000 to $300,000. So homes on each side that are worth $200,000 to $300,000, you're really looking at a pretty good little lot here. In addition with that, somebody could, somebody within the neighborhood, within the town, might want to be able to rent that out to use the shed, fix the shed up a little bit, and use the lot to possibly store things within the shed, especially like because there is a lot of outdoorsmanship within this area, fishing, things like that. Some type of outdoorsman might want to be able to store things in their four-wheelers, small boats, canoes, and maybe park a trailer or something on this lot. So there's a lot of different uses for it. Not only that, one of the properties may want to be able to, owners might want to purchase it as well. And so with this particular property, she's going to, advertise it there local. The market value is about 8 to 10,000, probably a little bit higher than that because of the value of the homes, but we're just being conservative. And even if she can sell it for 5 to 10, she's going to make a great return off of the investment. So there is different type of deals out there. You need to be creative with the different deals. You need to do your research, make sure that a property, like this really could have been a disaster with this deal by accidentally bidding on the wrong one. She thought the parcel number was right, and it's this auction that's done in Michigan's a little bit different, so accidentally didn't realize she'd bid on the wrong one until she was the high bidder. And so if this wasn't a good property, it really could have been a disaster to a degree. Now it's only a $700 disaster, so it's not like it's the end of the world. But if you're starting out and you only have a couple of $1,000s to begin with, that could be a huge chunk of what you're looking to do. So it doesn't really matter where you start out as a tax lien and deed investor. You can purchase tax lien certificates, over-the-counter tax liens that are on decent property starting at about $100. You can purchase tax deeds, and occasionally there's going to be things like this resale where you can purchase property for a couple of $100 that does have some value to it. You can turn around and sell. Here's an example of a tax lien certificate that was purchased over the counter. This is a tax lien in Florida. It's on a nice single-family home, huge lot, and it's a home right there on the waterway. And so this is a large lake, connects to all different types of lakes. Now the tax lien was just under $2,000, and the property was valued at $275,000 to about $325,000. So when you're looking at your money, is your $1,900 protected by a property that's worth $200,000 to $300,000? Well, yeah, your money is going to be protected by that. There's really not very many investments out there that have this type of value backed by our money plus earning us a guaranteed interest rate return. So we'll either have the option to foreclose on the property if they don't pay back by the end of the redemption period, or if they do, we're going to go ahead and make our money back, our interest rate return, and invest into another tax lien certificate. Now, you're not always going to find over-the-counter tax liens like this. Sometimes you may be looking at you know, a $200 or $300 tax lien on a you know, a single family home that's worth 30 to 40. And there's a lot of different land properties, you know, like $100 to $300 liens that you can purchase on great pieces of building, great building lots with value. And so if there's only 1 or 2 tax liens on a property, and you're purchasing a tax lien for $150, so you're looking at a total of $300 worth of delinquent taxes, and the property's worth 15 grand. You know, you're looking at a safe investment. That's just as safe as this investment, and in, you know, depending on the way the state is ran, how the foreclosure process works will depend on exactly what you're going to do with the property. In Florida, the county will actually do the foreclosure. So you fill out the deed application, the county does the foreclosure, puts it up to a deed sale. If it sells at the deed sale, you make back your money plus your interest rate return. If it doesn't sell, then you'll go ahead and acquire the property. In other states, you do the foreclosure yourself, and then you are able to acquire the property if it goes through the foreclosure. So, you know, Florida is a little bit different, but there is different types of opportunities out there that can be had every day. Now, as far as picking a strategy, last week we talked about over-the-counters. The week before that we talked about online auctions. So today we're going to talk about live auctions. And what is a live auction? Well, essentially a live auction is just an auction that's going to be held in person at the county courthouse. You can see this property right here. I mean, this property, I just read that. You can see this picture right here. This is a tax sale. So as far as these in-person county auctions, this is the oldest, most common method that tax sales have been taking place. I mean, when I first got started with tax lien investing, there wasn't online auctions. I mean, you were going down. It was a 3-day ordeal, and you were bidding on tax lien certificates against sometimes hundreds, and you know, and quite a few hundred different people. You know, it could range in size, or you know, how many other investors were there, from maybe 30 or 40 people up to literally hundreds of people, maybe even thousands over the 3-day period. And so, you know, now they can do online auctions where especially big counties, you know, like Maricopa County, Arizona. You know, that's a big county, lots of tax liens. Now they do their online auctions. You know, another example would be many of the big counties in Florida, Miami-Dade, those different counties. And so in addition to the online auctions, there's still going to be a lot of counties that have live traditional auctions. And there's some states, many states in fact, that don't have any online auctions at all. So really attending the tax sale is really the only way that you can invest. In fact, there's more states that don't have online auctions than do. Now, when you're investing in an online, county auctions, there's really 4 different investor profiles that can be used. And we have the investor profiles in the member section of the website. We go through each one of those profiles. And the 4 different profiles that can be used while attending a tax auction, you know, a live in-person auction, could be either profile number 1, a high-yield tax lien investor, a tax deed investor, a pre-sale tax deed investor, or a redemption deed investor. So those are some of the different profile and strategy types that you can use while attending the auction. Now, every state is going to conduct live auctions. So even a state like Florida, where 80% of the counties have moved to an online auction, there's still going to be many counties that hold the traditional auction. And with tax deed auctions in Florida, there's probably only about 25% of the counties that do online auctions. The rest still have a live auction down at the county courthouse. And so, you know, if you're looking to acquire property, you know, many times one of these live auctions is really where you can pick up some incredible property, because it's all going to be a matter of how many investors show up there and how many dollars are, you know, do all of those investors have. How much capital is there among all of the bidders? And so if they're selling $1 million worth of property and there's only, $500,000 amongst all the bidders, there's going to be properties that don't sell. There's going to be properties that sell for, that have less competition. So it's just really going to depend on the individual auction. Now, you can actually go to many of the county websites and look up the past auction information. So that's a good way to see, what has the auction been doing lately? What's been happening over the last couple of months or last year or last time they had an auction. So most auctions are going to be held at the county courthouse. Sometimes they may have them in some type of hotel or other building, but usually they're going to be held in some building, in some auditorium within the county courthouse. Now, regular auctions, live auctions are going to be conducted on tax liens, deeds, and redemption deeds. Also, many bidding systems can be used. Now, in the program that you guys received in the email that I sent a couple of weeks ago, in section 4 of the workshop manual, we'll go through and we'll talk about each one of the different bidding systems. So there's bid down the interest rate, where you're bidding down the interest rate on a taxing certificate. There's a premium bid, where you're bidding up the price. There's random selection. There's bid down the ownership. So there's going to be different bidding strategies, and depending on which county or state you're looking at, they may use one or more than one of those bidding strategies. Now, really, the success of the auction is going to depend on the number of bidders present. And I talked about that a little bit earlier as far as the competition there at the individual cell. Now, this is something I always recommend, anytime I talk with somebody who has live auction happening within their area. Attend the auction if there's an auction taking place in your own backyard, even if it's not your strategy. Say you're a tax lien investor and it's a tax deed auction. Attend the auction. If you're looking to buy tax deeds and it's a tax lien auction, attend the auction. It's going to be an educational experience for you, not only seeing people bid against properties, but getting a feel of what's happening there locally. Even if you don't plan on investing, it'll still be educational for you. Now, what's going to happen on the day of the sale? Well, the sales usually get to begin in the morning, and it's going to continue until all the tax liens or deeds are sold. Now, in the past, I talked about how the auction may go several days. Usually the biggest counties will have some type of online auction now, but it's possible that the sale could go for more than one day. But usually it's going to be a day. Also, an auctioneer or county official will conduct the auction, and it's really just like any other type of auction. If you've ever been to a estate sale or anything like that, it's just similar. The taxing certificates will be bid down on interest rate, or they'll be bid up in price. The tax deeds will be bid up really like any other type of auction, like an eBay auction. It's going to start at the combined delinquent taxes, penalties, and fees, and then it will bid up in price from there. So, example, the properties that I bid on there in Florida, started at $5,000, ended at $10,000. Now, the registration, it's going to depend on the county, if it needs to be done before the auction or if you can just register the day of the sale. Before you attend the sale, that's something you're going to want to figure out. You're usually going to find that information on the county website or through some type of county PDF download. If not, then you're going to want to call. You're going to want to know everything there is to know about the auction if you plan on going to an auction and participating in the sale. Sometimes I'll talk to students and investors, and they didn't even read through the auction question and answers, the auction rules. They didn't go through any of this information before bidding on the auction. Always go through every information that's available for you. You don't want to make a mistake. This is how the students that I've worked with for years haven't made big mistakes, because I guess I can't completely say that, because the girl that I worked with, she ended up, of course, making a mistake, but mistakes happen, and luckily, I think a mistake that may pay off for her. But, they're not making typical mistakes at the auction like most beginning tax sale investors. So as far as registration, we talked about some will require you to register, but every auction will require you to register. Some will just require you to register before the auction happens. Of course, this information will be used to send out your tax lien, to send in your tax deed. So here are the different bidding systems that we talked about in section 4 of the workshop manual. Premium bid down the interest rate, bid down the ownership, rotational bidding, and random selection. We're not going to go through each one of these this evening, but it's good to be aware of them. And you can, of course, go to the workshop manual and review and read on each one of these and how they work. Now, as far as acceptable forms of payment, most counties are going to require payment for any tax liens or deeds within 24 hours. It'll really depend on the county. Sometimes they'll have a little bit more leeway, but some counties will require you to pay right there at the time of sale. So as you're preparing for the auction, that's something, of course, you're going to want to figure out. Now, some counties will require all counties are going to require certified funds, bank checks, cash, and some counties are now allowing debit cards. It just really depends on the county. You know, many of the online auctions, or I guess really all of the online auctions, will have payment systems in place that allow you to pay with a credit or debit card. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about emotional bidding. Excuse me. I've actually got a cold coming on, but I didn't want to. I knew we had a lot of students that had signed up for the webinar tonight, and I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. So bear with me a little bit as I'm a little bit more nasally than usual. Now, how do you avoid emotional bidding? This is really one of the #1 mistakes that I've seen happen with brand new tax lien and tax deed investors. In fact, I can't even say brand new. I've seen it happen with habitual people that do it every single time they attend an auction. There's an older gentleman who attends one of the tax sales that I attend here locally, and every year he bids on properties sight unseen. So he hasn't done any research. He just goes and bids against other people and doesn't like losing the bid. It's the most crazy thing I've ever seen, because I think with investing you want to make money. I guess he just has money to burn, but that's his strategy. And he becomes an emotional bidder. In fact, I've heard him say he doesn't ever want to lose a bid. And I just couldn't believe, I couldn't even believe he said that. You never want to lose a bid, even if it loses you money. But, he has obviously a different motivation than me. Now, as far as how do you become an emotional bidder? Well, first of all, the unemotional bidder performs the proper due diligence. So they know about the properties. They've gone through, they've researched. They've done a comparative market analysis if it's a deed sale. If it's a lien sale, they've researched the property, found out what the estimated value is, looked into the property records. They've identified a preset bidding limit. So if you're a tax lien investor and you're bidding down the interest rate, you're going to set that limit before you even attend the auction or participate in the bidding. I'm willing to go down to 10% or 12% or 16% or whatever it is, and you don't go below that, even if you lose the tax lien certificates that you're interested in. So the unemotional bidder is really willing to let tax liens and deeds go. That go above or below their bidding limits. They also avoid bidding wars that pass their preset limits. So if you've set a limit, I'm going $10,000 tops on this home. If it goes above there, you're willing to let it go. You're not going to get engaged in a bidding war where ego gets involved and you end up paying more than you planned on paying. And it's hard to do that. I've talked to a lot of students even recently that have lost properties that they were interested in, and it's hard to see those properties go. But you're better off letting a property like that go than purchasing a property and not making money on it. And so really, this is the investor that sticks to the game plan. They've done the research before the auction. In fact, they're probably one of the most prepared people at the sale. They've identified a preset limit. They know exactly how much they plan on investing on each one of the properties, either how low they're willing to go with interest rate if it's a tax lien certificate, or how high they're willing to go if it's a tax deed and they're trying to acquire property. They're willing to let those properties go. They don't get emotionally involved. They don't get into bidding wars. They stick to their game plan and they make money. Essentially, this is one of the most important things that most people don't talk about. Most tax sale trainers don't talk about, and it's really one of the key components to you being successful at the sale. If you go through and you do all of that work before the auction and you stick to your game plan, you're going to be able to make money. Now, it may take longer. You may have to work harder to find the deals. Some people expect tax sale investing to be just easy as, just completely easy. And it does become easier, especially with tax lien investing. But when we're talking about acquiring property, we're talking about real estate investing. So real estate investing takes some work. Now, that doesn't mean that amount of work can't be incredibly profitable. But it is going to take a little bit of work. You are going to have to, do a little due diligence and do research. You may have to make phone calls and list properties online and try to sell and figure out how to do a contract in a particular area. I mean, so you're going to have to do a little bit of work, but the payoff is going to be huge. So what happens with the emotional bidder? Well, first of all, they don't know what the properties are worth. They really haven't done much due diligence. They may have just, quickly looked on the property information or said they think that they know what the value is. They really haven't done any research. And next, and this is really an important one, they take property ownership before the bidding or auction has even begun. So they already start seeing themselves what they're going to do with the property. They've already really started making all of the plans on the property and really start, feeling that property ownership before the auction. The more attached they are to the property, the better chance that they're going to have of overpaying, of bidding more than they should have. And the sad thing is I'm seeing it happen more and more at auctions. Usually these properties that are selling higher than they should, it's because you have two unemotional bidders. I mean, it is possible that on occasion some of those property owners some of those bidders could be educated investors that know something that we don't know. But a lot of times those are just two emotional bidders going off on a bidding war, raising up the prices for everyone else. And so, this is really something that we got to watch in ourselves, but it's also going to affect us because you'll see other emotional bidders. And if you're attending an auction in person, um, bidding against somebody that is an emotional bidder, takes a little bit of skill, and it's not always going to, there's not always going to be a right answer with how to be able to deal with that. Bidding really fast or bidding up high, and kind of knocking them out there in the beginning, or slow bidding it. I don't know. It just depends on the person. It's something you fill out. But you try not to get really emotionally involved in it, and hopefully they won't get as emotionally involved as well. So a person that's an emotional bidder has no preset limits. They know the property, well, I think the property's worth $80,000, so if I can get it cheaper than that, it's going to be a good deal. They haven't set a limit saying, okay, I need to pick this up for 50% of the value or 20% of the value or whatever it is. They haven't done that. They also engage in bidding wars with other emotional bidders, bidding up the price of the properties. Ridiculous. So when you see people overpaying for properties, you'll know what they are. You know they're going to be an emotional bidder. So as far as Life County auctions, they can really be an excellent way to purchase tax liens or deeds. I like to attend a live auction up in Wyoming. It's a tax lien certificate auction. They have a 4-year redemption period, and it's really an auction system of random selection. Actually, no, it's more rotational bidding. So essentially, the first name on the list gets the first lien or gets a chance to buy it or pass it, and they just go through the list like that. So you'll have a chance to either buy the tax lien that comes up or pass. And so, you don't get to necessarily pick the tax lien certificates that you're most interested in, but with these tax liens, most of them are going to be on very good property, and there's only going to be, uh, you know, 20 bidders and 150 properties or something. So, just going through the list, you'll know that the couple of tax liens that you may not want, and all the rest of them you do. So, that's a live auction, but it's a fun experience to go do that, and you're still looking at good investments. Um, so, if there's a live auction taking place in your area, attend the auction. You don't have to bid, just attend. You're going to find it educational. You'll be able to point out and say, "Oh, look at that emotional bidder going off." And then two of them are going back and forth, you know, making fools of themselves as investors, and you'll be able to point that out. Of course, you don't point it out to them. Not recommending that. I don't want any fights, but you'll be able to look at it and chuckle to yourself that here's two unemotional people getting involved in a property war, a bidding war, and paying more than they should. So every state's going to have some type of auction, and most states are going to have counties that still have live auctions. So really, everyone I'm talking to is going to have some type of live auction that takes place in their area sometime within that year. And so, everyone has an opportunity to attend a sale and just for the experience. So what types of properties can you purchase at the auction? Well, you can purchase single-family homes. You can purchase commercial properties, commercial and residential building lots. In fact, this is a great type of property to purchase. Everyone wants the single-family homes, and so sometimes the single-family homes are going to have a little bit more competition, and so sometimes you may pay up for a single-family home. But let me ask everyone a question. If you could acquire a two different properties, they're both worth 100,000. One of them's a single family home, and the other is a nice, valuable building lot on a golf course. There's two different properties. Both of them are worth $100,000. You're able to pick up one for $20,000 at the auction, the building lot, and the other property you have to end up picking up for $35,000. Plus, you have to put in, another $15,000 to fix the property up and make it sellable. And so with each one of these properties, one you're going to pay $50,000 for, or $60,000. Let's say $60,000. We'll say, well, by the time you put in fix it, let's say it's $60,000. The other property you're getting for $20,000, and both properties will sell, within a short period of time, within 30, 60 days, 90 days, for $100,000, and you can make a lot more profit on the other, profit on the other property. Why not look at that other property? So when it comes to tax lien and deed investing, you want to be creative. You want to look at different types of properties and different ways that you might be able to turn around and make a profit on that property. So, different types of building lots are usually going to be an incredibly safe investment. If the property has use, if the property has value, it's usually going to be a good investment, especially if you can get it at the right price. And price is key. Even property that may not be in an area that you would want to live, if it has value and you're picking it up for the right price, even in a property that may not be in the best area, still might be a good investment, because you can turn around and sell that property, and you're picking it up for such a low price that there's a huge room for profit. Also, different types of raw land, large tracts of land. If the land has value, it's going to usually be a good taxing certificate or tax deed to purchase. So really what we're looking for is just different types of valuable properties. Now, what type of properties do you want to avoid? Well, first of all, and probably the most important, is useless land. And useless land can come in a lot of different ways. It can come in irregular building lots. It can become, in land with just no value. This may be the 5-foot by 100-foot section, small strip of land in somebody's backyard. Even if it had some value, if it doesn't have any use. So the property has to have both value and use. I mean, what are you going to use that property for? You might be able to sell it to the property owner, maybe, but chances are there's nothing that you can do with that property versus a property that is a building lot, has value, and has use. You can sell that building lot to an investor who might build a home. You can sell it as an investment. Somebody's going to be willing to buy that property at the right price. Sometimes properties with easements, these are usually going to get into larger type of properties, usually your building lot, and that's the reason I say building lots, single family homes, basic properties, because these properties are usually not going to have some of the things that you may have to worry about with other type of properties, commercial land with environmental issues. And this won't be your average commercial property like a commercial building. This is going to be, usually some type of industrial type of building. And with any of this information, this is information you can look up. So let's go ahead and let's go look at some live upcoming auctions, and let's do a little bit of online research. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to secretsoftaxlieninvesting.com. And we are going to go ahead and log in, go to the member section, and we're going to go click on online auctions. Now let me look for... Okay. And I would go ahead and show some live auction information, which would be fine, but I'd rather just show online auctions because that's something that everyone can participate in. You don't have to attend in person. With a live auction, you can go through and research that information, using really the same process. You get that hard list. You go through, research the list. In fact, we'll do a little bit of that when we look at some of these auctions that are coming up anyway. I will quickly show you how to use like a PDF list or an Excel list. So what we're going to do is go ahead and click on tax deed auctions, and we're going to go ahead and go to Brevard County, Florida. Now, why are we going to Brevard? Just because I was checking it out earlier today, and they have an auction coming up tomorrow. So these are properties that are going to, be sold tomorrow. And so what we do, of course, is just, go to the auction page, click on auction calendar, pulls up October auction. We're going to click on tomorrow's date, and it's going to pull up the tax sale list. Now we can see that there's one of 4 pages. We can click right here to go to the next page. Now, as we're looking at this list, we're going to see the auction type, tax deed. We'll see the certificate number, the case number. But what's most important to me and to us is we're going to look at the opening bid amount versus the assessed value, and we're going to look to see if it has a property address. This first one does not. Looking at $1,500, $3,700. I'm not going to look at that property. It doesn't have a good enough bid to value ratio. So what is the opening bid amount? $1,500, $1,600. What's the assessed value? $3,700. That doesn't have a good enough spread for me. $1,500, $3,500. Another one. This one does have a property address, so it's possible. And one thing I guess I want to want to talk about is a lot of the land in Florida is underassessed. So this property could be worth more. So I mean, I think that there's going to be better investments, but you could look into some of these properties because it's very possible that the building may be worth, 8 to 10 grand. And if it was worth 8 to 10 grand, then picking it up for $1,500, you could look a little bit more into it. But what I want to do is look at some of these properties. We can see this first property right here has a value or an opening bid amount, of $7,940. We do see it has an assessed value of $84,000. and then we see the property address right here. So we're just going to go ahead and copy the property address. I'm also going to click on the parcel number because I want to pull up the property records. So we see the site address right here, the owner's name, the value summary. See, it has a value of $84,000. Assessed value. We can see the sales information here, so it looked like it sold in 1993 and then 2012. It sold for $100. We see the property was built down here in 1956. We can see it's about 2,535 square feet. Now, if we want to do a little bit more research on the property, the first thing we can do is go ahead and go to Google Maps, and we're just going to do a street view. All of this is just, looking for clues, looking for information on the property that's going to tell us more about it. So we can see the property is located right here. Here is the property right here. Now, one thing I want to point out to you guys, and I saw this here myself, is we can look and see when this property sold for. So sold for $100 in with a warranty deed in 1993, but in 2012 it sold with the TD. Now that would look like tax deed to me. Would have to check and see. Usually wouldn't have sold for $100 unless they've somehow made a mistake in that amount. And if we really wanted to, we could go back and look and see, what the official record is. But that may be something I want to take into consideration, see when the last time the property was occupied. Now, one thing you're always going to want to do is you're always going to want to pull up and review the map of the property. And you can see over here on the left-hand side for this particular county, there's different information: building draws, photos, taxes, bird's eye view, classic map, map and sales, map, trim notice. We're going to go ahead and click on map. And you always want to use these maps anytime you're looking at a property, even if it's a tax and certificate, because you want to see exactly where the map is, and you always also want to use the satellite image. So sometimes it won't pull up with the satellite image, and you've got to go over to the layers and add the layer to pull up the satellite image. So we can see here's the property right here. We saw it was kind of that small, long property. We can also see over here that there's a photo of the property. So we can see that, looks like it hasn't been used in a while. It is all brick, and it's starting at about a $7,000 opening bid. So, of course, if we were interested, we could do some more research. This building next to it looks, fairly clean, and the buildings next to it here look fairly clean. So this building's really kind of the eyesore on the street. Some type of warehouse outlet. So, really looking at that opening bid amount versus the property value, this property could easily be worth over $100,000, and so it may be a decent investment. A little bit more, a little bit different type of property because it's not your normal single-family home or building lot or something like that. But still, it picked up the right price. It may have some value, some pretty good value to it. We see this next property here, $15,000 opening bid. We have the address listed right here. And we're just going to go through the, really the exact same process each time. Now, when the auction comes close, you're going to do a lot more due diligence. You're going to do a comparative market analysis on it. You're going to do a lot more research on the property. But until the auction gets close and you plan on bidding, you're not going to do as much as you would. You're just going to go through and just do a quick view on each property, get an idea, anywhere between a month to a week before the auction, and then right about a week before the auction, you're really going to start doing, some hardcore due diligence on the property, especially if you're purchasing a tax deed. With the taxing certificate, you can do a research in a matter of a half an hour or an hour, and be able to tell if it's going to be a good tax lien to buy. So here we can see the properties located right here. Can go ahead and go in and get a better view of it. Now we don't have the street view capability. Usually we'd be able to see that up here, but we do have this view. Now, what thing I want to do is I want to go back here and look at some of the additional information that we have on this property. We'll go ahead and click on the map just to verify that this property that we're looking at here on Google Earth is the same property, and we can see that it is. We can also click on the photo here, and we can see really it's a pretty nice newer modular home. So overall, not really, really a pretty nice little property. Now from there, we'll also want to check quickly on Zillow.com just to get an idea of property value. So we can see this property has an estimated value of about $80,000. Now let's say that it's worth, $60,000. Is it still going to be a good value? And it very well may be worth $80,000. At a $15,000 bid, a $60,000, $80,000 value, how high can you go on this property before you're going to need to stop bidding? What is going to be that bid ratio that's going to work for you? Well, this property does look a little bit cleaner, from the information that we saw there on the photo. Looks like it's newer. We can also review the property records, and we can see that this property was from 2006. So it is a newer modular home. If it's still in this condition, and that's something that you would check. If it's still in this condition here, and if you're planning on bidding, that's something that either you're going to do or you're going to pay somebody, find somebody on Craigslist or whatever, to go out and take a photo of the property, so you always get a photo. Now with a tax lien certificate, you don't have to do that, but if you're purchasing a tax deed that's going to be purchased, out of state or from some other place that you live, and you're not going to visit the property in person, you're going to want to make sure that you have some type of current photo. So if the photo looks like this today, then you could bid accordingly. Even if you were to go do a comparative market analysis, and let's say the property would sell for $75,000, could you go up to $20,000 and still make a good profit? You might be able to, and so that's something you're going to take into consideration with each individual property. And you can see that there's all different types of properties in here as well. Let's go ahead and look at one more of them. This one starts with for $5,000. It has an assessed value of $27,000. Okay, so we can see that this one does have a street view. Property's located right here, and here is the property right here. So it really looks like a pretty clean property from this. Now, one thing I will want to see is I want to come down here to the image and see that this image was in April 2011. So this is really 4 years old. So we're going to want to get a current property photo. We're not going to expect that this property still looks this nice. Now, it very well could be, but we're going to want to see for ourselves, either through an on-site inspection or through having current photos of the property. Let's go ahead and quickly check the value as well. I can feel I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit with this kind of cold that's kicking in, so I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as we can this evening. Okay, so we can see that it looks like this property has 2 times has tried to be sold. One at 49, one at 72. And so, we overall looks like a decent property. We see the photo there, even though it is older. Looks like it does have some value. Looks like they tried to sell it at one time. So, of course, with this property, we can make a decision how high would you be willing to go. And then as the auction gets close, if this property is still available, then you're going to get into, you're going to do a comparative market analysis on it. So you're going to find properties in this area that have sold that are comparable to this property, and you're going to figure out what they were selling per square foot and then compare it to your property and come up with a good real property value. You don't want to overinflate the property value because this is going to be for you. This isn't for an appraisal. This isn't for anything like this. You need to know what the property will actually sell for if it was to sell for top dollar. Now, you might not sell it for that. You might sell it as a wholesaler for a cheaper price, or you may go through quiet title and sell it for top dollar. That's something that you're going to decide as well, possibly before the auction, but at least have either one of them be a possibility. Now, one thing we could go through, and I'm sure that there's a lot of other good properties on here. One thing I do want to show you guys quickly is some of these Michigan sales. These are almost coming up, and you do got to be careful on the properties, but I just wanted to show you guys something I found interesting. Here, property on October 21st, and this property, this is actually for a ton of different properties. So there's an $18,000 opening bid. There's $82,000 worth of taxes, so you're going to have to pay the taxes and the minimum bid. So, really it's going to be about $100,000. And this has, and there's, I mean, this is not for the faint of heart, because there's a ton of properties and you have to do a bunch of things with these properties. Some of them will have to be demolished. They'll have to be cleaned out. So, I mean, this is going to be a huge job, because there's probably, I don't even know, 25 homes or something like that, and there's commercial properties, and this is all being sold in one lot. So you can see, all of these different lots, homes that are coming up for selling, all kinds of different commercial properties. In fact, I was looking in here, and it actually had a restaurant. So here, another home, home. If there was a group of people and you had the ability to go in and fix up all these properties and go through the quiet title process with a lot of them and sell them, it's possible you can make a lot of money on it. Here's this lot, $13,000 value. Another home, other properties, lots, another home, another big brick home there. Here is I believe this was a restaurant. I'll have to go through all of them. But one thing that's interesting about these auctions is they have incredible amount of detail and photos on each one of the properties. So you can see how bad some of the insides are on all the different properties. And these are definitely proper. I mean, these are going to the resale. So these are the same auctions where they, sold them for $100. So, there's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done on some of these different properties. Here's that restaurant that I was talking about. You can see the bar still there. But anyway, there is still a couple of resales left where the bidding starts. You definitely want to do your research and make sure that you're purchasing a good property, because And of course, some of these properties may not be selling for a ton. You might be purchasing them for $300-400, but still, you'll want to do your research. So you can see here's properties starting at, you're going to have to pay the minimum bid and the current tax. So property starts at $100 plus the $1,300-1,400 in taxes. And there's a single family home. They'll tell you, the house beyond need of TLC. So, it needs a lot of work. You see that there's different types of building lots, $100 bid, $234 in taxes. Some of these properties, like this property, for example, I haven't done any research on it, but let's say that it was worth $17,000 and you were able to get it for $400 or $500. This is the type of property you could even do like a lease option or seller finance on, where you're selling the property and bringing in residual income. Here is some type of commercial property, starting at $2,200. Now these are again, I want to say these are the properties that have went to sell a couple of times and didn't sell. So, but these are the similar type of properties that one of my students purchased and already has some interest in them. So she's got them a couple of weeks ago. You can see, all kinds of different, double lot with shed. So there's going to be different types, different conditions. Here's a lot here. $714 in taxes, $100 opening bid. It's a 1 acre, worth $23,000. We can see right there that it does have a mobile home slab with, power utilities there. So at one time there was a mobile home on the property, but if somebody wanted to buy that property, they could essentially move in pretty quickly. So this is a property you might be able to sell if you picked it up at the right price. Well, I'm pretty much about losing my voice tonight, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and call it an evening. But I did want to, get on the line and go through some of this information with you. So I'll go ahead and get this replay and put it into our member center. If you haven't got a chance to watch the last week's video, you can go here to the training center and review it here in the training videos. Of course, we have our profile section over here with the different states, and you can learn about how to get started, pick an investor profile. So again, I want to thank everyone for being on the line this evening, and we'll talk again next week, and so expect to see some emails updating some information on the website over this week as well. So look for new updates, new trainings. I'm going to do a couple of short trainings. Once I get over this cold, I've already got them kind of prepared that I'll just put out on YouTube and then send you the links. So if you have any questions, go to the members section and go ahead and go to the forum section and go ahead and ask your questions there. And this is going to be a good place for us to get started and get going with tax liens and deeds. So again, thank you for being on the line, and you guys have a good evening.